At 12:43 on a weekday, a customer entered the cafe as usual. The worker greeted the customer, who requested an iced Americano with an extra shot. The worker noted that the customer came in at the same time every day, though she didn't know his name or age. However, today, she realized she had developed a crush on him. Her friend suggested that she should ask for his number, but the worker, named Yoon, hesitated. She felt unsure about approaching him in that way, fearing that it might make him uncomfortable. Her friend reassured her, mentioning that it was common these days, even when taking orders, to ask someone out if they frequented the same place. The friend encouraged Yoon to show that she remembered him, especially since he always ordered the same thing. Yoon was still uncertain, recalling that she had read somewhere that some people could be offended by such advances, potentially leading them to stop visiting the cafe. She feared that if she asked him, he might never come back. Her friend, however, pointed out that she had been crushing on him for so long and suggested she might regret not asking. Yoon reflected on a time when someone else had encouraged her to ask her own crush out, and she hadn't had any issues with it back then. But now she thought it might be better to just keep having a crush on him rather than act on it. Her friend agreed that sometimes having a crush could be just as fun. Despite her hesitation, Yoon found small joy in these daily moments. She noted that they might be running out of beans and asked her friend to check. This little joy was enough to keep her going. Suddenly there was a loud noise and someone was hit. Yoon heard people calling 119, trying to help the injured person. She felt paralyzed, unable to move, and began to panic, thinking she might die like this. There were so many things she still wanted to do, like asking the customer out. Just then, a voice spoke to her, saying it would give her another chance at life, under one condition. Yoon, confused, asked who was speaking. The voice explained that she would be given another chance to try again, but only if she chose one of 3 wishes it offered. Yoon, still in disbelief, was told that if she failed to fulfill her wish within 100 days, the voice would return to claim her life. At first, she was shocked by the impossible offer. Yoon woke up suddenly, hearing the alarm bell. She realized it was winter when she had been hit by a car, but now she was back at the cafe, 100 days before the accident. She wondered if the events had been a dream, though they felt far too real to dismiss. Still unsure, she chose to go on with her daily routine. Her friend greeted her, commenting on how cold it had become in the mornings, and teasing her for looking like she might be crying. Yoon denied it, saying something must have gotten into her eyes. Her friend offered eye drops, but Yoon declined, saying it was fine now. She went to make a cappuccino and told her friend to go change. As Yoon continued with her routine, she tried to dismiss the earlier experience as a dream, telling herself that what mattered was that she was alive and could continue her normal life. Most importantly, she would be able to see the customer again. Then, Yoon's co-worker, Ji-hye, remarked about the customer, who was wearing all black and almost seemed like the Grim Reaper. Yoon was startled by the comment and worried what if he overheard. It seemed odd, but maybe it was just a coincidence. The customer ordered a caramel macchiato with extra whipped cream, and Yoon quickly complied. However, as she was preparing the order, the customer spoke again, revealing that he had a message for her about her life. Yoon was stunned. He then explained that she had been given a second chance, 100 days to fulfill a wish she had before she died. She was to choose one of 3 envelopes, each containing a different wish, and if she failed to achieve it, he would come to take her life once the 100 days were over. Yoon, overwhelmed, couldn't believe what she was hearing. The customer, whom she now realized was the Grim Reaper, reassured her that she didn't need to be scared, as he wasn't there to take her yet. But he told her to choose one of the wishes and handed her the envelopes. Yoon was left in shock, unable to comprehend the gravity of the situation. Yoon was in disbelief as she processed the Grim Reaper's words. She had been told that her life was being turned back by 100 days, but if she failed, she would die again. It all felt too unreal, but the pain in her cheeks confirmed that this wasn't a dream. The Grim Reaper standing before her reassured her that this was indeed real. Yoon, still struggling to grasp the situation, found it hard to believe that she was seeing the Grim Reaper casually drinking a caramel frappuccino with extra whipped cream. She expressed her confusion, questioning how such an impossible situation could be real. The Grim Reaper asked what was wrong, and Yoon responded, admitting that it was hard to accept that she hadn't been dreaming after all. She remembered the pain she felt from the accident, but her memories had become blurry. She couldn't understand if it was all just a prank. The Grim Reaper explained that they had made her forget her previous life to ensure fairness, as she needed to relive her last 100 days. He mentioned that it was the rule of the great Yomra, the ruler of the underworld. Yoon sarcastically wondered if remembering the winning lottery numbers would have been helpful. Then she asked why she was brought back to life at all. The Grim Reaper responded that the great Yomra enjoyed watching TV dramas and had been moved by one in which a human struggled. It was then that Yomra granted Yoon's wish. Yoon, still trying to understand, was astounded by the idea that her life had become like a TV drama. The Grim Reaper reassured her that the important part was that she was alive. Yoon agreed, admitting that was all that mattered. The Grim Reaper then presented Yoon with 3 envelopes, instructing her to pick one. Yoon chose one at random, deciding to just close her eyes and pick. The Grim Reaper encouraged her to open the envelope. Inside, Yoon found the Chinese character for love, confirming it was exactly what it appeared to be. She asked the Grim Reaper for an explanation, and he revealed that he had overheard her having a crush on someone. Yoon, surprised, asked how the Grim Reaper knew. He explained that they had heard her, and that all she needed to do was confess her feelings and go out with her crush within 100 days. If she failed, she would die. Yoon, in disbelief, questioned how the Grim Reaper could impose such a condition. The Grim Reaper, having delivered the message, prepared to leave. Yoon, still processing the situation, stopped him and asked if he could return the next day. She offered him a drink on the house, anticipating she would have many more questions for him. The Grim Reaper agreed to come back and introduced himself as Chae Yoon. Yoon, still overwhelmed, introduced herself as Yoon Jae-yi, feeling as though she had just encountered a ghost. Over the next few days, Yoon struggled with her new reality. She tried to focus on the basics, like asking her friend Jihye if she wanted to get something to eat the following day. Still, she couldn't help but feel like she was about to lose her mind. She tried to summarize everything in her head, realizing just how crazy it all sounded. She had to confess her feelings and start dating someone, but Yoon had never done that before. She had only ever had crushes, and once went out with someone because they had asked her out. Now, she was facing the prospect of dying if she didn't manage to start a relationship. Yoon was frustrated by the situation. She thought about how her fingers had failed her, wishing she had been able to do better. She couldn't understand why she had to die again. This would be the second time, but she had no memory of the first death. Surprisingly, she didn't feel like she was suffering from any PTSD, though the experience must have been horrible. She thought about how she might prefer to be reaped by the Grim Reaper's scythe rather than deal with this bizarre task. She speculated that the other 2 choices might have been easier than this one. Yoon considered the idea of becoming rich within 100 days, but that felt equally absurd. As she thought more, she realized she still had so much she wanted to do, like meeting her sister's baby, turning her cafe into a chain, and celebrating her parents' 60th birthday. She didn't want to die again. She wondered why the great Yomra, the god of the underworld, couldn't just let her live. The thought of the great Yomra only watching dramas terrified her. She mumbled the name Raon before falling asleep. Chae, the Grim Reaper, questioned who she was talking to, but Yoon was alone. Yoon woke up feeling disoriented and groggy, wondering if she had managed to crawl back into bed the previous night. She was also curious about a strange humming sound she had heard. Her friend, noticing Yoon's condition, joked about dying while making espresso. Yoon, trying to cheer her friend up, told her to take some macarons or cake on her way out, treating her for a job well done. Her friend asked about Yoon's hangover, to which Yoon replied that she had cured it with a triple shot of coffee. Concerned, her friend asked if her stomach could handle it, and Yoon assured her it was fine, adding that she would take a piece of cake before leaving. Yoon's thoughts drifted back to Mr. Chae. She wondered when he would arrive, and just as she was thinking about it, he walked in. Yoon greeted him, telling him to take a seat wherever he liked, and that she would bring his drink shortly. She noted that he seemed to have a fondness for sweets, offering him the cake while mentioning that she wasn't fond of sweets herself. Che took the cake and asked if it was okay for Yoon to be out front since there was no one behind the counter. Yoon reassured him that it was fine, explaining that the cafe wasn't busy at the moment and that it was usually quieter after lunchtime, with the busiest hours being in the morning and during lunch. Che asked if Yoon had spoken to her crush yet. Yoon explained that she hadn't, as she had been hung over and didn't want to reek of alcohol. Che teasingly remarked that he had known she had been drinking too much. He reminded her that she had only 99 days left to fulfill her task, implying that her delay meant she now had 98. Yoon corrected him, stating that she still had 99 days, and then changed the subject, deciding to ask him something. She hesitantly brought up the envelope she had picked, asking if she really had to date her crush within 100 days, or if it could be someone else. She confessed that her feelings weren't entirely within her control, and that she wondered if the condition would still be fulfilled if she ended up falling for someone else. Che told her he would check on that and get back to her. He added that rejection was a possibility she should keep in mind, which Yoon found unnecessary to hear, but thanked him anyway. She quickly clarified that she wasn't suggesting she would fall for someone else just to survive. She had always been good at having a secret crush for a long time. Che, seemingly amused, wondered if she was bragging about that. Yoon continued, recalling a time when she had a crush for a long while, but Che cut her off, asking for more cake in exchange for doing her a favor. Yoon agreed to get him some macarons as well, to which Che happily agreed, asking for chocolate cake. Yoon then checked the fridge and freezer, calculated all the bills, and placed a new supply order. At that moment, she heard a familiar voice, her crush's voice. She froze, realizing he had just walked in. He apologized for startling her, assuring her that he wasn't a creep. Yoon, flustered, immediately recognized him and called out his usual order, an iced Americano with an extra shot, realizing too late that she should have simply acknowledged him as a regular instead of blabbering. Her crush confirmed that he was the one who always ordered the iced Americano with an extra shot, and explained that he had been planning to say hi since he was a regular, but he was sorry if he had made her uncomfortable. Yoon quickly reassured him that it was fine. Her crush then asked if she was about to go home, and Yoon explained that she always closed up shop around that time. She realized that this was her chance to say something, but before she could, her crush said he would see her tomorrow for his usual order and wished her good night. Yoon, still overwhelmed, said goodbye to him as he left. After he left, Yoon excitedly reflected on finally speaking to him about something other than his usual order. It felt like a small victory, and she was thrilled. Che, however, scolded her, pointing out that she should have told him her name. Yoon had been feeling like she was down on her luck, but she started to realize that there were still some good things left in her life. She couldn't help but wonder if her future was changing, and whether that was okay. She reminded herself that for her to survive, her future had to change. With 98 days left, she resolved to do her best, though she didn't yet know what awaited her. As she thought about what to have for dinner, Yoon considered ordering something, though she decided to skip the booze. She wished she had a private chef to make things easier. Later, her sister Jaeha greeted her with a warm welcome home, saying she had come to have dinner with her. Yoon was surprised, asking why Jaeha hadn't called. Jaeha explained that her husband was coming to pick her up later, and she had come to check on Yoon after she had been acting strangely the previous day. Yoon, feeling emotional, hugged her sister and promised to be a great aunt to the baby. Jaeha, in her usual manner, reminded Yoon to be a good aunt and not mess up the book at the shop. She then handed Yoon some food to take to the tables. Yoon complimented Jaeha on her cooking, saying she was jealous of her husband for having such a talented wife. Jaeha humbly dismissed the praise, but was interrupted by a call from her husband. Yoon, seeing how much he cared, remarked that he was just worried about her. After finishing dinner, Jaeha asked if Yoon was okay, and Yoon affirmed that she was fine. Jaeha then mentioned that she was planning to spend some more time with Yoon and added that Raon was coming back to Korea. She also shared that Aunt Jung had suggested they all have a meal together when he returned, giving Yoon a heads up. Suddenly, Yoon's memories flashed before her eyes. She was shocked and confused, wondering why Raon was coming back. She questioned whether this was part of the 100-day period before her accident. At that moment, Che appeared, surprising her. He asked what she was doing standing by the door. Yoon, still startled, asked when he had arrived, and he replied that she needed to be quiet because her sister might come in through the front door. Yoon was confused, realizing that she didn't remember opening the door for him. Che casually mentioned that, as a Reaper, he didn't need anyone to open the door for him. It was his job to enter people's homes. Yoon, still alarmed, argued that it felt like breaking and entering, especially since she was still alive. She asked where he had been the previous day, and Che explained that he had been watching over her and had safely carried her back to bed when she was asleep. Yoon, still upset, scolded him for entering a woman's home without permission, but Che, unbothered, explained that it was part of his assignment to keep watch over her 24 hours a day. Yoon tried to lighten the mood, inviting him inside and offering him a drink, specifically some milk. Chi, however, had come to deliver a message about Yoon's earlier question. He confirmed that she didn't have to fall in love with a specific person, as she had wondered. Yoon was surprised at how quickly she received an answer and thanked him. Che, noticing her curiosity, asked why she hadn't asked for her crush's name earlier. Yoon, slightly embarrassed, realized that he had been watching her and confirmed that it was part of his assignment. Then, Che asked Yoon if it was okay for her future to change. Yoon, deep in thought, confessed that while she didn't remember much of her life before the accident, she had never had a personal conversation with her crush before. This time, though, that had changed, and she wondered if it was okay for things to be different. She was concerned about the possible butterfly effect and what it might mean for her fate. Che assured her that it was perfectly fine. He explained that if she continued her 100 days exactly as she had before, she would die, and that her timeline had already changed the moment she picked the envelope. The change was irreversible, like spilled milk. Yoon's fate and the lives of everyone around her would unfold differently from now on. That, Chai said, was the only way for her to change her future. Yoon, now understanding, realized that Raon's return to Korea was no coincidence. It must have been because her fate had already shifted. Che, not understanding the significance, asked who Raon was. Yoon replied that Raon was her first crush. Che asked Yoon if she still had feelings for her first crush, Raon. Yoon quickly denied it, but Che pressed her further, wondering what it was then. Yoon tried to explain, though she couldn't quite put it into words, saying that while she didn't have lingering feelings for him, there was definitely something about him that she couldn't explain. Che, though skeptical, accepted her answer and agreed that Raon was indeed her first crush. Yoon admitted that there was a time when she constantly worried about whether she would ever stop liking him. Meanwhile, Yoon's friend commented that it seemed like the boss was doing well, to which Yoon confirmed that she was doing fine and had even wanted to treat them to dinner someday. Yoon couldn't help but feel guilty for not telling her friend that she had ended up talking to one of their regular customers, as she knew her friend would be upset for not asking his name. As if on cue, her crush entered the cafe and greeted her. Yoon felt embarrassed to see him again and greeted him awkwardly. He ordered his usual drink, and she handed it to him, still nervous about how she sounded. He then introduced himself as Kim Woobin, explaining that he hadn't mentioned his name the day before because she had seemed in a hurry. Yoon introduced herself as Yoon Jae, and he promised to see her again next week. After he left, Yoon's friend, clearly excited, bombarded her with questions, asking what had happened overnight. Yoon tried to downplay it, claiming there was nothing to it, but her friend insisted that it could only mean one thing. He was definitely interested in Yoon, especially since he had given her his name. Her friend joked that she now understood why he kept coming to the cafe. Yoon replied that it was simply because the cafe was the closest to his office, but her friend wasn't convinced, teasing her for being so timid. Yoon found herself wondering if her friend was right, if maybe he really was interested in her. The possibility made her feel hopeful, and she decided she would tell Che about it. Yoon imagined that Che would probably dismiss her excitement, but still, the thought of telling him made her feel a little lighter. She had been anxious and scared since she had been brought back to life, and longed for some kind of confirmation, like seeing status windows, something she had read about in web novels. She felt envious of the returnees who seemed to have everything figured out. But now, for the first time in a while, she felt like there might be a chance for her. Meanwhile, Raon was on the phone with Madame Young, confirming his arrival at the airport after his luggage had been delayed. Young asked him which exit he was at, and he promised to let her know. She assured him it was no trouble, mentioning that it had been 4 years since he last visited, and that this was the least she could do. Raun, after hearing that, reflected on the time that had passed, remembering how long it had been since he last saw Yoon. He sighed, missing her, and muttered to himself, "I miss you, Jae." Chai congratulated Yoon for learning her crush's name, adding that he must be a little interested in her as well. He mentioned that he had been worried because he couldn't visit during the day, but now he felt relieved. Yoon asked if he had been busy, and Che explained that he had work to take care of. Yoon then teased him, asking if his job was just to watch over her. Che quickly denied it, saying it was too much of a bother. Yoon, curious, asked what he needed to hurry up and get, but Che just told her not to sneak up on him, noting that she had managed to sneak up on a Reaper, which was impressive. Yoon, looking amused, said it was because he had been zoning out. Che then asked if she was done for the day, and Yoon confirmed that she was just locking up the place. Che asked if she was headed home, but Yoon responded with excitement, saying she was going out on a date. Later, Chaewon greeted her happily, expressing disbelief that she finally managed to escape work to meet Yoon on a Friday. Yoon thought to herself that she was grateful to be alive again to see her friend. She thanked K-drama for this chance and offered to treat Chaewon to something nice. Chaewon, though, insisted on paying for the meal, saying that was why she worked overtime, to enjoy good things like dinner. Yoon smiled and agreed. The conversation then turned to Raon, Yoon's first crush, and Chaewon was surprised to hear that he was returning to Korea. Yoon, slightly embarrassed, asked her not to call him that. Chaewon teased her, pointing out that it was true, and asked if Raon had been studying abroad. Yoon confirmed that he had, but Chaewon noted that he should have visited at least once or twice in the past 4 years. Yoon explained that he never did, and she admitted that this made her nervous. Chaewon understood, but reminded her that 4 years was plenty of time to sort out her feelings. Yoon assured her that she had taken care of it long ago. Chaewon, however, teased her, saying that Yoon now had a new crush, to which Yoon reacted with embarrassment. As they prepared to leave, Chaewon insisted that she couldn't let Yoon, as a small business owner, pay for dinner. Yoon reminded her that she was just starting her job too, and that it was her sister who owned the cafe. Chaewon laughed and said it didn't matter since Yoon always gave her free stuff when she visited. Yoon, however, pointed out that Chaewon hardly had time to visit anymore. She then realized she had forgotten to bring the cake she was supposed to give to her brother-in-law the next day. Chaewon offered to go with her, but Yoon refused, saying Chaewon must be tired from living far away. Chaewon told Yoon to take care and text her when she got home safely. After they parted ways, Yoon was relieved to have met Chaewon so close to the cafe. However, she felt a bit scared since it was late. Just then Che appeared, and Yoon, startled, asked why he kept sneaking up on her. He explained that it was a force of habit, but pointed out that she was headed in the direction of the cafe. Yoon revealed that she had forgotten something and was going to pick it up. Che insisted that she should have been more thorough, then suggested they hurry. Yoon was surprised to hear that he was going with her, and he explained that it was dangerous for her to go alone. Yoon couldn't understand him, but asked if he wanted something to eat when they got there. Che declined, saying he was fine but would take something next time. He then pointed out that someone was standing in front of the cafe. Yoon, feeling a sudden rush of nervousness, asked if it was Rayon. To her shock, Rayon stepped forward and hugged her, calling her name. Yoon's thoughts immediately drifted back to Chaewon's question. Did she ever figure out a way to stop liking Rayon? Yoon recalled that she and Rayon had first met at the hospital, as they were born just a day apart. While most people might have drifted apart over the years, their bond remained strong. Rayon's mother had often expressed a wish that Yoon were her daughter, and because of this, Yoon and Rayon practically grew up together, almost like siblings. Their fathers also became good friends. Rayon's mother once asked Yoon where she had gotten a pretty dress, and Yoon explained that her aunt had bought it for her. Yoon's own mother, however, was not pleased with her sister's frequent gifts, pointing out that kids grow out of clothes too quickly. Rayon's mother, on the other hand, defended herself, saying that she bought clothes for Rayon anyway, so it didn't matter. She added that she wouldn't have had the chance to buy clothes for a girl if it weren't for Yoon. Yoon's mother, though, promised to buy toys for Raon the next time they met. Raon, in turn, explained that her mother had said she was also buying things for Yoon because Yoon was going to marry Raon when they grew up. Raon's mother even called it an investment in the future. Yoon's mother was taken aback, but Raon's mother just laughed it off. Raon innocently clarified that it meant she and Yoon would always live in the same house. Yoon couldn't help but wonder if her aunt's constant remarks about marriage had contributed to her feelings for Raon. After all, Raon had been beautiful and well-mannered even as a child, traits that drew children to her. Yoon admitted that, while she hadn't had feelings for him at the time, she realized in middle school that she had developed a crush on Raon. Chae, listening closely, asked if that meant Yoon had liked him since they were little, but Yoon quickly denied it, saying that children didn't understand love. They had attended different elementary and middle schools, so Yoon had been fine with it. However, they ended up at the same high school, and that was when her first love came to an end. Chae asked if Yoon had confessed her feelings, but Yoon revealed that she never did. Chae then asked why it ended, and Yoon explained that she had overheard Raon saying something that crushed her. Raon had said, "I know there's something going on between you and Yoon." But then, he followed it up with, "No way, man. Chae is like a younger sister to me." Yoon admitted that it had been a tough moment, especially since she was in her senior year. She felt embarrassed sharing this with Chae. She recalled how Raon had dismissed her feelings by calling her like a younger sister. As Yoon reflected on this, she was suddenly interrupted by Raon's voice. He had flown back to Korea that day, and after taking a nap to recover from jet lag, he had woken up too late to visit. Yoon noted that the cafe had closed at 7 p.m., but Raon had still wanted to come by, and luckily, he had run into her. Yoon, clearly annoyed, called him an idiot for coming so late. Raon, however, seemed unfazed and addressed her as Jae again. Just then, Chae appeared, and Raon asked who he was. Yoon, startled, remembered Mr. Chae and quickly explained that she was meeting a friend. But he had left something at the cafe, so she had to open the door for him before heading home. Raon said he had plans and needed to leave, but told Mr. Chae that he would see him around. Chae, watching the interaction, thought to himself that there was no way Raon viewed Yoon as a younger sister based on the way he had looked at her. Yoon, somewhat embarrassed, tried to redirect the conversation by calling out to Mr. Chae, asking if he had been listening to her. Chae, acting as if he hadn't heard her, asked her to repeat what she had just said. Yoon then asked if she had seemed awkward earlier, to which Chae reassured her that it hadn't been noticeable. Yoon confessed that she had been really nervous, to which Chae remarked that it was quite obvious. He advised her that it was always good to have a backup plan in situations like these. Chae then commented that things seemed to be going better than expected and teasingly asked if Yoon was planning to drink a ton and then sleep there. Yoon quickly denied this, explaining that she never drank that much. There was a conversation happening between a couple of voices, with one voice commenting on someone sleeping. The other voice responded, mentioning that they had heard the person had been called in for an emergency late last night. The first voice then pointed out that it was daytime, to which the second voice suggested that they should leave the person alone and not disturb him while he was sleeping. The first voice retorted, saying that the person looked the way they did because the second voice always let them off the hook, referring to something that had happened with Yoon. The second voice responded defensively, denying any wrongdoing. Chae, waking up, interrupted the conversation, asking them to stop arguing. She mentioned that they hadn't been called in today and asked why they had come. A girl, irritated, pointed out that Chae had not submitted the returning report and claimed that if Chae had done her job, they wouldn't have had to come in. Chae defended herself, saying that she had finished writing the report and would send it right away. The girl continued to worry about the situation, but a guy intervened, calling out to Yoon. The girl scolded him for interrupting, but the guy expressed concern about Yoon sleeping outside, worried she might get sick. Chae admitted she was too lazy, and the guy insisted that she should sleep inside. The girl, annoyed, called the guy overprotective and said he should mind his own business. She then shifted the conversation to another topic, suggesting that there was now another candidate. Chae, who had been thinking about Yoon and Raon, responded that they would need to wait and see. But it seemed like Raon might have feelings for Yoon. The girl, shocked, commented on how Raon, Yoon's first love, had returned at such a time. Chae teased her, saying that she seemed to like discussing other people's love lives. The girl, still focused on the situation, remarked that it was a good thing for Yoon, because now she had more candidates and a better chance of succeeding. Chae, however, seemed troubled and mentioned that every time she brought up Ryan, Yoon appeared to be bothered, even though she claimed to be fine. Chae expressed uncertainty, wondering whether this situation would turn out to be good or bad. The girl, noticing Chae's change in demeanor, asked what was wrong, but Chae quickly dismissed it, saying nothing was wrong. The guy then asked if they weren't going to keep an eye on Yoon, to which Chae replied that Yoon was probably in bed with a hangover. Later, Jae-ha brought Yoon some dried pollock soup, asking if Yoon had drunk a lot with Chae-won. Yoon assured her that she hadn't, though she admitted to having gone for a second round of drinks with Mr. Chae. Jae-ha's husband, concerned, suggested that if Yoon wasn't feeling well, she should go home and rest. Yoon, however, insisted she was fine and that she had to deliver the food she had promised. Just as she said that, the doorbell rang, surprising them. Jae-ha asked if something was supposed to arrive that day, but Yoon had no idea. Jae-ha remarked on how quickly the delivery had arrived. Raon entered, mentioning it was his first time meeting Yoon's brother-in-law. Jae-ha's husband, recognizing Raon, commented that he had heard Raon had known Yoon since she was young. Raon then greeted Yoon, who was shocked to see him. She choked on her food in surprise, and Jae-ha and her husband quickly rushed to help her, offering water. Yoon, embarrassed, wished someone would save her, while Raon commented that she hadn't changed and was still clumsy. Yoon, recovering, snapped at him, asking why he had suddenly shown up after such a long time. She questioned why he was here when they were probably going to go to his place soon anyway. Raon explained that he couldn't attend Jae-ha's wedding, but he wanted to introduce himself to her brother-in-law before she visited his house. Yoon, frustrated, said that he should have come to the wedding back then, questioning why he had returned now after being absent for 4 years. Raon then revealed the reason for his return, stating that he missed her. He confessed, saying he had come back because he missed her, calling her by her name, Jae. Jae was stunned by what she had just heard from Raon. She didn't know what to say in response. As she was trying to process everything, her sister entered, curious about what they had been talking about. Raon had mentioned that he missed both Jae-ha and Jae, which was why he came back. Jae couldn't help but reflect on how breaking her heart had always been Raon's thing. Later that day, Jae returned home, feeling tired and weighed down. Her heart felt heavy, and she wanted to feel lighter, but Raon's words kept echoing in her mind. She found herself blushing as she thought about it, though she didn't want to. Her thoughts drifted back to her high school days with Raon, and she found herself tangled in feelings for her first love again. The next day, Jae returned home feeling exhausted, having had no rest over the weekend. She felt isolated, as there was no one to talk to about her emotions. She had told everyone that she was over Raon, but deep down she wasn't so sure anymore. Suddenly, her new crush appeared, walking up behind her. Jae recognized him and noticed he had seen her clearing leaves out of the way, something she did every day. She had assumed he was there to buy coffee, but instead he was on his way to work. When he saw her, he stopped to say hello, the first time she had seen him in the morning. Jae felt her face turn red, trying to hide her embarrassment. Her crush, noticing her reaction, offered her a cookie, one he had bought from a store. Jae knew that different stores sold different cookies, but she accepted the gesture with a smile, thanking him. As he was about to leave, Jae invited him to come by during lunch so she could treat him to a free coffee. Just then, Chae appeared from behind, and it was clear to her that Jae's crush was more than just interested in her. However, Jae wasn't surprised by Chae's sudden appearance this time. Chae looked directly at Jae's face, and Jae thought something was wrong, but Chae wasn't concerned with that. Instead, he asked when she would finally ask her crush for his number. Jae became shy, her face turning even redder at Chae's comment. Chae went inside the coffee house, but surprisingly, he didn't seem interested in getting coffee himself. Raon's mother always enjoyed looking through old pictures of Raon and Jae from their childhood. She never tired of reminiscing about those moments, as they represented the early years of Raon's life. She had a special fondness for Jae, whom she considered the cutest girl. Since their time at the hospital, Raon's mother had liked Jae a lot. She also thought Raon was the most handsome boy and tried her best to make sure he didn't feel left out. It had been so long since she had seen Jae, and she wanted to invite her over for lunch. At first, Raon didn't understand why she was so eager. Jae was always busy, especially since her sister was on leave, and Raon didn't want to impose. However, he knew Jae had an intern, and his mother was aware that Jae worked with her employee from morning until evening, also being the one to close the cafe. Raon was confused, though, as he had met someone else besides Jae at the cafe, and he couldn't figure out who this person was. Jae had mentioned her part-time employee when they were at Jaeha's house, but Raon's mother grew upset upon hearing this, wanting to go and meet Jae herself. However, she had a meeting to attend, and she worried that Jaeha's husband would feel uncomfortable. Raon's mother had always hoped that Jae would join their company, but Jae had chosen to work at the cafe, which was something she truly wanted. Jae had always been wise beyond her years, even as a child. Raon was planning to work at his father's company, which was why he had been sent abroad to study. His mother had been worried since he hadn't returned in 3 years, but Raon had other plans. Being the only child in the family, he had his own reasons for staying away. His mother wanted to know why he hadn't returned to Korea, but Raon kept this to himself. He had been doing well abroad, and one day he realized that he was doing so well, but felt incomplete without Jae. Raon's mother was thrilled when he came home and stayed with her. Raon and his friends organized a meeting, and Raon asked Jae to come. Despite Jae not wanting to go, she couldn't say no. Her life wasn't that simple, and she had to go. Che didn't understand why Jae was so hesitant and urged her to wait and see what the real misfortune would be. Jae didn't want to meet anyone who made her question whether she was special to someone, but Chai was determined to save her from this situation, which surprised Jae. Someone else had also been asked to attend the meeting, and Jae realized that it wasn't just Raon who was involved, but Yoon as well. Although the others seemed to think the meeting was because Raon had come back, this person knew that if Raon returned, Yoon would likely come too. Chai was determined to help, and he felt a shift in his emotions toward Jae. He had a plan to visit her, pretending that he couldn't open the cafe and needed to find her. Yoon found his idea silly, but Che explained that it wasn't a bad plan since her friend thought he was just a part-time employee. Yoon agreed, realizing Che might be right. Che then suggested that Yoon should go, and when Yoon questioned why he wanted her to go so badly, Che hesitated to explain further. Earlier, Che's boss had discussed their strategy. He explained that it was important to pursue both options, offering Jae a chance to choose between them, especially since the returning first love could be another option for her. Che expressed concern about being too ambitious and failing, but his boss reassured him. He explained that people often fail when they can't choose between two options, but their plan was different. They weren't pushing Jae toward a particular choice, just giving her more possibilities and letting her decide. The boss emphasized that if Jae got rejected by one person, it would be disastrous. Che was confused, especially since everyone seemed to think Jae would get rejected, a thought he had also shared at first. His boss told him not to get in the way but to observe and let things unfold, reminding him that it was important for Jae to choose. In the present, Chai continued, suggesting that someone who might have had a long-standing crush on Yoon could appear at the reunion. Yoon immediately denied this, but just as the conversation was wrapping up, Raon arrived and asked what Yoon was doing alone. Yoon replied that she had been reminiscing about the time she and Raon had dug up the garden when they were young. Raon was surprised that she remembered, recalling that they were about 5 years old at the time. He added that his mother had been looking for Yoon, but he had told her to let Yoon rest for a bit. Raon then asked if Yoon would attend the school reunion, reminding her that she had said she would think about it. Yoon hesitated, wondering if she needed to go with him. Raon reassured her that everyone would be there to see him, and she didn't need to worry about Youngwoo, as Raon hadn't contacted him since graduation and didn't want to make Yoon uncomfortable. Yoon finally agreed to attend, admitting it had been a while since she had seen everyone. Raon reminded her not to forget about the reunion and how she had promised to come. Yoon teased him, saying that it was his fault she hadn't grown taller, and her heart started racing uncontrollably. She then realized she was nervous about how she looked for the reunion. questioning if her outfit was right. Raon noticed her nervousness and joked that she had arrived early, but Yoon insisted she had just gotten there. Raon remarked that it felt different to be out together as adults, and Yoon reminded him that he hadn't returned for 4 years. Raon acknowledged that he should have visited more often and said he wished he could have seen her like this more often. Yoon, surprised, asked what he meant by looking like this. But Raon, realizing he had said too much, quickly changed the subject, pointing out that they had arrived at the meeting place. Yoon, still a bit flustered, asked why Raon wasn't going inside, and just then, Youngwoo appeared, remarking that neither of them had changed much. Yoon was stunned to see him again, calling out his name in surprise. Everyone was enjoying Raon's return to Korea, and drinks were flowing freely. Yoon, however, was already ready to leave. Fortunately, she and Raon were sitting apart. Raon had suggested she sit with the girls, but Yoon didn't want to make it obvious that she was thinking of leaving, especially since she had just arrived. As she sat, she noticed the talisman band on her wrist, which Chae had given her. It was meant to help encourage her courage, especially since she hadn't wanted to come at first. Yoon was surprised that Chae, who she thought was always straightforward, would do something like that. Yoon quietly asked herself why Chae was avoiding her eyes, questioning if he had lied. Chae, noticing her discomfort, told her that everything depended on her attitude and encouraged her to cheer up and have fun. Yoon wasn't sure whether Chae was bad at showing emotions or if he was just being kind to her. At that moment, Raon handed her something to eat and apologized, saying that he had asked her to come because he thought Youngwoo would be there, but now he wasn't. Raon felt bad for bringing her, but Yoon reassured him that it was fine and told him not to apologize. She urged him to go enjoy himself with the others, who were looking for him. Raon insisted that if anything happened, she should call him immediately. Yoon just told him to go, not wanting him to worry about her anymore. One of Jae's friends noticed the closeness between Yoon and Raon and commented on it. Yoon responded that it was because they had grown up together. The conversation shifted, and one of the friends asked Yoon what she had been up to lately, noting that she wasn't on social media. Jae, jumping in, said that she was running a cafe with her older sister, which impressed their friends. Yoon reflected to herself that, despite everything, it felt good to reconnect with old friends. It reminded her of high school days. The conversation turned to where Yoon was going, and she mentioned that she was just going outside for some fresh air. The friends suggested she take her jacket since it was probably cold outside, but Yoon brushed it off, saying she would be back soon. As she stepped outside, Yoon realized that it was a bit chilly. Raon noticed and reminded her that even though it was fall, she could still catch a cold if she wasn't dressed warmly enough. Yoon, not wanting to stay outside long, told him that she would go inside soon. Raon teased her, saying that she might as well stay outside for a while longer if she was dressed that lightly. Yoon, slightly cold, asked if he was cold too. Raon, noticing her small frame, joked that she might trip over her jacket since it was dragging on the ground. Yoon, slightly annoyed, joked back that if he hadn't pressed down her head so much when they were younger, she would have been as tall as her sister. Just then, one of their friends called out for Raon, asking where he had gone. Raon muttered that they wouldn't leave him alone and reminded Yoon that she shouldn't stay out too long either. Yoon agreed, saying she would go back inside soon, but since she had a coat, she planned to stay out just a little longer. She admitted to herself that she was having more fun than she had expected and realized that she shouldn't have worried so much. She also felt relieved that Youngwoo wasn't bothering her. However, just as she was feeling more at ease, Youngwoo appeared and sarcastically commented on how Yoon and Raon were still so close, even though they were adults. He called it gross, which made Yoon a little uncomfortable, while Raon simply shrugged it off. Yoon was confused and frustrated by Youngwoo's words, asking him what he meant by his comments. Youngwoo, however, made it clear that he thought Yoon was gross and accused her of thinking she was special. Yoon responded by saying that she didn't understand his animosity, and Youngwoo criticized her further, saying that she wasn't pretty, smart, or physically impressive. He continued to belittle her, suggesting that the only reason Raon kept her around was because she was his close friend, and then insulted her by calling her his younger sister. Youngwoo seemed to take pity on her and offered to date her, only to claim that he should have left her alone. He implied that Yoon should feel grateful for his attention. Yoon, upset by his words, pointed out that after she rejected his confession, Youngwoo had been acting arrogantly. She told him he needed to know his place, and that it wasn't right to lash out just because someone didn't return his feelings. Frustrated, Yoon admitted that she was tired of the situation and wanted to leave. Earlier, Chae had given her a bracelet, telling her that it was meant to bring peace and courage. Yoon tried to gather herself, recalling Chae's words as she faced Youngwoo. She asked him if he was still upset about her rejection from years ago. Youngwoo dismissed it, saying it was from a long time ago, but Yoon found it strange that he was still acting this way. She pointed out that if he was bothered by how close she and Rayon were, it was his own issue, and he shouldn't ruin the mood for everyone else. She told him that if he didn't have anything else to say, she was going back inside. Youngwoo, however, was enraged, and Yoon, not backing down, threatened to scream if he didn't back off. Youngwoo taunted her, telling her to ask Rayon for help, but Yoon quickly countered by asking why he kept bringing Rayon up. She accused him of taking his frustrations out on her because he had an inferiority complex about Rayon. At that moment, Chae appeared and kicked Youngwoo away, rescuing Yoon. People inside the venue heard the commotion and wondered what had happened outside. Yoon, realizing the potential consequences, feared that Youngwoo would file assault charges against Chae. She worried that Youngwoo would make trouble since he had a reputation as a grim reaper, and Chae shouldn't get involved in such situations. Raon and their friends came over, concerned about what had happened. Youngwoo, furious, cursed at Yoon and called her crazy. Yoon, still uneasy, asked Chae if he thought Youngwoo would follow them, but Chae dismissed her concerns, teasing her about being out of shape for feeling tired after the altercation. Yoon wasn't focused on that, though. She was more concerned about how Chae had shown up out of nowhere and kicked Youngwoo. While it had felt satisfying, Yoon wasn't sure what the consequences would be. Chae, however, explained that he was supposed to keep an eye on her, not only to watch her but also to prevent dangerous situations like this. He reminded her that she needed to stay alive for a certain reason. Yoon, still not fully understanding, asked if Chae believed she could die from something like this. Chae was serious, telling her that humans often kill over small matters, citing the news as proof. Yoon, growing anxious, wondered aloud if Chae was implying that Youngwoo was dangerous. Chae reassured her, explaining that his actions were just precautions. He didn't know if Youngwoo had truly intended harm, but he wanted to make sure Yoon was safe. Yoon, feeling a bit unnerved, expressed that when Chae spoke this way it scared her. Chae, noticing her reaction, asked what was really scaring her, but Yoon quickly clarified that she was feeling relieved instead. She admitted that Chae really had come to her rescue. Chae then told her to get up and sit somewhere else while he went to buy something. Yoon, still feeling the effects of the encounter, asked for an iced Americano. As she stood there, she realized she was still wearing Chae's coat and wondered if he was worried about her. She decided to call him, but before she could, a voice interrupted her. A guy approached, saying he had been right all along. Yoon turned to face him, unsure of who it was. Yoon, surprised to see Woobin, asked if it was a dream. Woobin greeted her and commented on the beautiful night, asking what she was doing there. Yoon explained that she was just getting some fresh air to sober up, but Woobin, concerned, pointed out that it was dangerous to be sitting alone like that. Yoon reassured him that her friend had gone to buy something quickly, so she wasn't alone. She appreciated Woobin's concern, thinking to herself that he was being nice because he was worried about her. Woobin, still worried, asked if it would be okay for him to stay with her until her friend came back, as he thought she seemed a little drunk. Yoon hesitated but asked if it was okay, wondering if she smelled like alcohol, which might be why he thought she was drunk. Woobin assured her it was fine, explaining that he had just been on his way back from the convenience store and his house was nearby. Yoon, realizing Woobin lived in the neighborhood, commented that the location wasn't too far from the cafe. She jokingly asked if he had bought anything frozen or refrigerated. Woobin responded that he hadn't bought anything frozen, but offered Yoon something to drink for her hangover, telling her to put out her hands. He said it would help, and even though Yoon hesitated, remembering that Woobin had given her a cookie before, he insisted it wasn't expensive and that she should drink it. Yoon, in return, promised that she'd give him free coffee at the cafe on Monday. Woobin then remarked that the drink worked better than she might think. Yoon, recalling how Woobin had once brought a cookie to the cafe, commented that he seemed to like sweets. But Woobin revealed that, despite his fondness for sweets, he always ordered just an iced Americano with an extra shot at their cafe. He explained that he loved coffee just as much as he loved sweets and needed the caffeine after lunch to combat the lingering sweetness. Yoon agreed, admitting it was hard to stay awake without the right balance. Woobin mentioned that he was addicted to her coffee and couldn't even go to other coffee shops anymore. Yoon, feeling happy, responded that she was glad to hear that, appreciating her regular customers. She felt elated when she was with Woobin. Woobin then noted that he had another reason for being there, but added that Yoon's friend was taking a while. Yoon agreed, saying she should call him, though she secretly wanted to stay in Woobin's company. She felt like she was wasting his time, though, and wanted to make sure he wasn't waiting on her. Meanwhile, Che, realizing Woobin was coming over, decided to keep a distance and watch from elsewhere. Yoon, distracted by a phone notification, wondered aloud why there were so many. She remembered that she had left in a rush earlier and made a mess of things. Feeling bad, she told Woobin that she was going to make a quick phone call and asked him to go ahead first. Woobin said he would wait until she finished. Yoon apologized for not calling sooner and explained that she should have reached out earlier. Raon, on the other end of the line, reassured her, telling her it was okay and that he was just glad she had called. He asked where she was, noting that she hadn't taken her wallet, so he guessed she wasn't home yet. Yoon replied that she was still near the restaurant and asked if the reunion was still going on. Raon, however, told her that he wasn't at the reunion, but was currently at the police station. Meanwhile, Woobin, who had been quietly listening, wondered aloud if Yoon was okay. He noted that she had seemed very flustered earlier and had been planning to ask for her number that day. Just then, Yoon's phone rang, and it was Yoonsu calling Woobin. Raon informed Yoon that he was at the police station, but he would be done soon. He added that Youngwoo was there as well and advised her not to come, suggesting they meet in front of her house. He also mentioned that her wallet was in the front pocket of her coat. Yoon, concerned, called out his name in surprise. Raon reassured her, telling her not to rush and asking if she had run there. Yoon, noticing his disheveled appearance, asked why his face looked like that. Raon confessed that he had gotten into a fight with Youngwoo, which was why he was at the police station. Yoon, shocked, raised her voice in disbelief. Raon urged her to lower her voice, asking her to calm down. Yoon was in disbelief, thinking that Raon must have been at the police station because Youngwoo had gone crazy. She felt terrible, blaming herself for causing the fight and regretting that she had run away earlier. Raon reassured her that it wasn't her fault, explaining that he had wanted to beat up Youngwoo for a long time. Yoon still felt guilty, believing she was partially responsible for provoking Youngwoo. Raon, however, firmly stated that it wasn't her fault, placing all the blame on himself and telling her not to feel guilty. He asked her to hurry up and give him the first aid kit. Yoon, now focused, agreed to get it. Raon explained that Yoon only needed to apply some ointment and put a bandage on the injury, but Yoon insisted that she needed to disinfect it properly to avoid infection. She told him to stay still while she cleaned the wound, noticing that Raon was flinching. Raon, a bit uncomfortable, thought to himself that she was too close. Yoon then applied the ointment, but Raon insisted on doing it himself, offering that she should just hold up the mirror for him. Yoon, still concerned, suggested that Raon see a doctor just in case. Raon refused, claiming that if he went to a doctor for something like this, they would laugh at him. Yoon, still worried, pointed out that Auntie would be upset if she saw him in this condition and asked if she should call her. Raon shrugged it off, saying his mom would probably praise him for beating Youngwoo up. He joked that Youngwoo's face alone would take 5 weeks to recover. Yoon, shaking her head, called him ridiculous. Raon reassured her that the main cuts were minor, urging her not to feel guilty, as she had done nothing wrong. Yoon, still feeling uneasy, suggested that he might be acting this way because she was like a younger sister to him. Raon, ready to leave, told her he should go now. Yoon, still feeling concerned, urged him to have a cup of coffee before leaving. Raon, however, explained that his mom would be angry if she found out he stayed at her house too late. He then brought up something Youngwoo had said. Apparently some men had punched him first and taken Yoon away. He asked if it was someone she knew. Yoon hesitated, remembering the incident. She explained that the man who had helped her was someone she knew, a part-timer from the cafe. Raon, relieved that he had come at the right time, suggested he should go to the cafe to thank him. Yoon, however, informed him that it had been the man's last day at the cafe, and he no longer worked there. Raon expressed his disappointment, but then said he needed to go. He told Yoon to rest up and take care of herself. Yoon, grateful for his concern, asked him to get home safely and to text her once he arrived. After hanging up, she reflected on the long day. There had been bad moments, happy moments, and moments that had made her heart race. It had been a hectic day, and now she just wanted to wash up and rest.